Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Zeal back in the Card 5 Vanguard deck profile. So because you're to like, comment, subscribe, and let's 1 star, shall we? This time we're covering Set 9 Youthberk, Keter Sanctuary. All around, Youthberk's been a pretty interesting deck to build, you know, like the Set 5 and Trial Deck 1 was kind of like meh. Set 6 had my least favorite RevolForm of all time, and yet the most used one, I guess, so fair enough arguments there. And then Set 7 came around, gave us Tempest, reignited my, passion for Youthberk, even though technically it only went out after 1 set. And then we came to this set where we don't have any new RevolForm, sadly, but we do have some interesting support cards, so fair enough. Let's go and get the start, shall we, and see what we got for Youthberk. So honestly, the deck's pretty fun and good. First up, we have our starter today in Youth Following in Footsteps. Youth, I will never get tired of saying that. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, honors order upon if you win second, draw a card. Standard star, no special basically that means if you win second, you get a free draw. Which is nice because that can reimburse you for your ride deck discard if you ended up going second, and you could technically benefit from that too if you like ran the trial deck, discard, call itself fodder. So fair enough. It's all around not a bad starter. The deck doesn't require it as your starter, but it's nice to do the full line, especially because he's so cute. How the fuck you not gonna run him? Like, run the little dude. So I want him in the right deck. And then we have our over trigger in Light Dragon Deity of Honors, Amartinoa. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. Over trigger, you may only have one over trigger in your deck. Or if it's trigger, when revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose when mutes. It can special move for the turn. And revealed it during a drive check, activate its additional effect, which is until end of turn. You can also perform drive checks with the battle of your rear guards. So Amartinoa is not bad because it gets rear guard attacks, meaning your deck can be a lot more dangerous on like its final turn plays, especially if you use Gust. And if you did what I did one game and you lined up a full board of grade 3s because you had no better options, if I had CD over that turn, that would have been game right then and there, but fair enough, I didn't. But yeah, no, so like the over is definitely dangerous in those situations where you have to call a bunch of grade 3s, but that's where my issue lies, where I feel like they made this over way too like Bastion oriented. Like they just didn't feel like Bastion was, or sorry, they felt like Bastion was the only Keter deck at the time. So yeah, let's just make the over solely like great for Bastion. I mean, granted it's good for Hexa too because more trigger stacking, but still we can all agree that it is probably more Bastion based than it is Hexa Orb based, so fair enough. But anyways, one of Amartinoa, it's just nice to have as drive checks and increases your hand, and if you see it early enough where you're multi-attacking but the game's not over yet, it's at least going to help you defend for the next few turns, especially if you're me, and you'll understand why if you've seen any of my videos with Youthberk. Then we have our normal triggers. I don't know why I forgot to change this to English. 2 copies of Alchemy. Whew, how many games has this thing won me? Actually, that's a funny story, actually. So the most recent game on the channel, Youthberk versus Graphogia, the reason I won is because of this. Technically speaking, any trigger in that moment would have won me the game, but this was the trigger I saw in that moment, so this is the reason I won. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 5k base. Draw triggers. When I was building my Youthberk Set 7 deck, I realized that certain triggers weren't doing anything, mainly extra crits. So I was one extra draws to increase my hand and make sure I stay alive. And turns out I have a really good bond with Alchemy. What I mean by that is I have a bond strong enough to where when I need him, he will show the fuck up and kick ass. So 2 of. Then we have 2 crits. I do still run crits, but only 2 of them. Of Blade Feather Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Auto rear guard at the end about a boost to put it to soul, choosing one of your subs 2k for the turn. Okay. Honestly, going to soul ain't gonna do jack shit. Because there are only 2 cards in the deck that Soul Blast, and frankly, you have more than enough Soul to get away with this. So you don't, or technically 3 if we count the ride deck grade 1. So you don't really need Blade Feather. You can use any other crit, but I do want to run Blade Feather just for the sake of if I'm in that situation where maybe I do need Soul desperately for whatever reason, I'm gonna run him. 2 of crits. It's nice to have, and especially when your opponent realizes that you're running more than 1 draw, I feel like that tells them, oh, wait, maybe they don't have that many of other triggers, especially when they see you run the front. Maybe they think you don't have crits. It's nice to have a cheeky crit every now and again. I remember I got my friend with that the first time I played this deck, so 2 of Blade Feather. It's nice to have. It's always the unexpected card. Then we have 3 copies of Bard of Heavenly Song Outpack, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, front trigger guard circle, components Vanguard to grade 3 plus 5k shield, which is great. So 20k shield, extra front that adds a little bit extra to your front row, which is nice, especially because normally I don't like to swing with stuff like Schneizal, which I do still run Schneizal after the Vanguard swings, because, you know, I like to have my drive checks. So having the front trigger there to increase the front row's power is pretty nice, just in case I want to swing with Schneizal first for whatever reason for once per game. So 3 of Outpack is nice to have, and I think it's just all around a solid grade 0 fucking card. Sorry, I got distracted for a second, my bad. Then we have 4 copies of a Draw Trigger and Protection Magic Proby, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, draw, choose guard circle, Vanguard to get their grade plus 5k shield. So great, 10k shield, helps increase hand, there's nothing more I can say about it. It just helps for guard power, and I tell you what, again I say, if you've seen any matches with me in this deck, you know why guard power is an important factor and why I win. Then we have 4 copies of our Heal Trick and Healer of Heavenly Staff, Arshes. So great 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. I don't run Recuperate, which is something I realized. Or maybe I do on tabletop and I just didn't realize it, but I swear I don't. Either way, I do like this heal. I like both heals because they're both non-effect heals. Because I don't like the effect heals very much because in my opinion, they're way too situational. Because in the point where their abilities don't go off, they're only 10k shields, meaning you have to drop more for them. And while yes, overall 25 is better than 15, obviously, if you're not in the situation where they become 25, then you're kind of hurting yourself by not using the 15k shield. So I'd rather have the 15k shields. If you want one of the counter heals, go ahead, but I choose not to. And now we move on to our Normians. First up, we have 2 copies of a card that shows up way too often. I've said this enough already in my other deck profiles where, like, for some reason when I run 2-ofs, people say, oh, you like to lose, or you don't see that card enough. Literally, check out my channel. Like, straight up. The amount of times I see cards that I run at 2-ofs. Fuck, even cards I run at 1-ofs, which is a rare occurrence. But the amount of times I see it, I'm not playing to lose. If anything, by that argument, I'd be playing to win, considering at that point it's already consistent enough. Anyways, 9 effect Vanquish Bow Stilfed. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 5k power. Auto back or rear guard center. When your Vanguard is placed on Vanguard by the RevolForm ability, stand this unit and he gets plus 10k for the turn. So it's not a once per turn. That implies that we're going to get a second card that does that, or that may be overthinking it. But the ability to stand this back row motherfucker with a 15k boost, that hits some insane numbers. Plus a Persona Ride, maybe throwing a Gust on there, because that's what you rode into. So that's 33 plus 15, that's 48 without any triggers or any other abilities whatsoever. Great. I love this card a lot, and I see it way too often for me to believe for a second that this is a 2-of. But it is a 2-of, believe it or not. So, solid 2-of, I guess. Take a shot every time I just said 2-of in the last 5 seconds. Then we have 2 copies of Enucleate Angel. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Guess what? Just like Stealth, only a 2-of, and yet I see this thing more than what I should. Auto rear guard, when your Vanguard is placed by riding from a grade 3, so whether it be by Persona Ride, effects, or just Revolve Dress, Soul Blast 1, retire her, countercharge 1, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets plus 5k for the turn. Great. So, an extra 5k, which kind of sometimes does enough and sometimes doesn't do anything, which is nice, but I also run it for the countercharge ability because I often have more than enough soul, and killing her isn't really a problem, especially if I call her to back row center, when I don't, on the rare occasions, I don't have stealth, of course, and I get plus 5k power. My issue with Youthberk, I feel like is different from everyone else, because in my opinion, how I like to play Youthberk is I don't like to attack with the rear guards till after, unless I don't have drive checks, then in that case, yes, I'll swing with the rear guards first, but my issue is that Youthberk has way too many cards that you want to boost the Vanguard with. Like, there's this 15k motherfucker, there's this countercharge one because she kills herself, and then this next card we're going to go over because it goes to Soul. So, and I hate doing that because that means I have to, like, lose out on my boosters for my rear guards. That's my only problem with Youthberk. Straight, I mean, that and one other, but I've gotten used to that other one, so fair enough. Like, I hate the fact that all my boosters feel like I want to save them, but A, that's probably how I build the deck, but also the countercharge, in my opinion, feels extremely important, especially because there are games sometimes where I will use up 4 counter boss in a turn, and it's nice having her just in case. Then we have 3 copies of Witch of Acclamation Sequana, the other booster I was talking about. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, can change rear guard during your turn. If you have a Vanguard with Youthberk and Carnage, she gets plus 2, so 10k base, which is nice. And then auto rear guard, when your Vanguard is placed by the Revolve ability, put it to solo, choose your Vanguards, and increase or decrease its drive by 1 for the turn. So essentially what you can do for combos is you Revolve Dress, use her skill, increase your drive by 1, use this thing skill, Soul Blast out her, retire herself, countercharge 1, get the Vanguard plus 5. Cool, so you got a plus 5, an extra drive on the Vanguard, and extra attack as well. All around, it's a pretty niche ability, pretty nice combo too, being able to get an extra drive, and fuck, if you had all 3, I'd love to see that happen, but I've never been able to pull up all 3, because typically my opponent's dead by then. But either way, it's a good skill. Getting to increase the drive is the reason why I like to run her so much, because it makes Tempest useful. It makes Zest the most deadliest card in this deck by a long shot, and Ghost just becomes a twin drive, which is nice. So, all around, 3 copies of Sequana. It's an amazing grade 1, and I love her a lot, and that's why she's the one at 3 of. And yet somehow, arguably enough, I see her less than I see these 2. Again, I don't understand how, but it's true. Don't question it. It's just logic, I guess. I don't know. Then we have 4 copies of our PG Palladium Zeal Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 sources K base. Continuous Sentinel. You may have up to 4 Sentinels in deck and almost put on guard circle. Choose your mutants. It cannot be hit on the battle if your hand has 2 more cards. Your card from hand is guarded. So great. That's standard PG. Now special this means if this only one card in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard 1, which never really happens with me because again my hand gets a little too big. And if you've seen any me fights with Youthberk, I feel like that's me trying to plug myself, but it's not. It's you'll understand what I mean if you've seen me fight, because it's interesting what happens. But having that ability to go all in and then knowing that you're safe because you have something that can nullify a big ass attack is great. So that's why I like Palladium Zeal a lot. And in this deck, he shows up a lot. Like, when I mean a lot, I mean I've had many games at this point where there have casually been 4 of them in hand without me having to search for them, or like me attempting to get them in hand. They just do it on their own accord. Fuck, I think at this point it's almost guaranteed one's going to be in my opening hand. So, for Palladium Zeal Dragon, he's amazing. He gets me hand cards. He just stays in my hand, and he kind of saves me from times where I'm being stupid, or times where my opponent survives my absolute stupidity that almost wins me the game. For Palladium Zeal, amazing grade 1. Then we have our last grade 1 in the deck, and that's the grade 1 of the ride deck. None in the main deck, sadly, even though it does have a rearguard skill, and that's determined to break away Youth. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues Vanguard or rearguard during the battle attack, it gets plus 2k power. So Grady can attack anything for that 2k, and that ability I constantly forget, but honest to God, who the fuck is going to block this? So fair, 10k swing. And then Auto is ruled upon by Knight of Ardent Let Youth. By soul blasting 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with the Youthberk and its card name from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand and shuffle your, or choose up to a grade 2 or less card from among them, call it to rearguard and put the rest on bottom. So how this normally works for me is either there are 2 triggers and a unit I want to add to my hand, or there is a grade 2, a PG, and a trigger. That's typically how it goes. There has never been a case where it's been just a perfect top 3. There's always has to be something wrong with it. Either way, nice skill though. It gets you either a rear guard, and because none of the rear guards have to be placed from hand for the abilities to go off, even though that's only one card that actually has an on-place ability, it's great because that does set up for your rear guards for later, and it can also get you Youthberk, so it can get you Persona Ride, or it can get you Revolve Dress. Either way, it's an amazing grade 1, and I do love him a lot, so hard one of in the ride deck because he has a good skill. Then move on to our grade 2s. First up, we have 3 copies of Knight of Tempestuous Friday. How many times? I know I'm still wrong, but still. Grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Continues guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguard, if your Vanguard, not your opponent's Vanguard, that would be. I want to see them make a card like that though. That specifies your opponent's Vanguard what it has to be. Anyways, if your Vanguard has Youthberk in its card name or Youth in its card name, so it can work on the grade 2 and the grade 1. This gets plus 5k shield. Now, for those of you that think shield cards are not that great or aren't that amazing in Youthberk, this card is the sole reason why my Youthberk set 7 deck almost never lost a game. And in fact, it is the sole reason my set 8 deck set 9 deck barely loses games. No joke. You want to know how? Here's a spoiler alert. Every time I play this deck, my hand gets crowded by grade 3s. That has been the constant case ever since past, like, the second I added Gust is when it happened. So I blame Gust for this, but, like, Friday has fixed my problems. I remember set 6, it was very 50-50. Like, it would come so close to winning, and then it would always fall just short. And I was like, maybe I should have Friday for shield value. Friday fucking turned things around. Easy 5k, has saved me so much, always there when I need her to be, and in the final moments where the game is almost over and I like the back of my foot, Friday comes in, saves my ass. Or Friday, not Friday. Amazing grade 2, solid 3 of, I have no reason to never cut her, like, straight up. Then we move on to 3 copies of Knight of Fracture Schneizal. So grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. All is placed on rear guard by counterblasting 1 look at the top 5, choose up to 1 grade 3 card with Youthberk's card name from 1 level, put it to hand, drop your deck, and if it has, regardless, it gets plus 5k. So great. So that's amazing, the fact that you can get either a Revolve Dress or a Persona Ride, and also the fact that regardless if you didn't get anything or not, he just gets 5k. So either way, there's a plus out of it for you, and I do like that skill a lot, being able to, set up for next turn, or this turn, and still get 5k is pretty nice. And then auto rear guard, the ability I almost never use. When this unit attacked, if your Vanguard was placed by riding from a grade 3 this turn, so again, by normal means or by Revolve Dress, he chooses your Vanguards and it gets plus 5k. So great. Give the Vanguard plus 5, and also at the same time, it's very simple to pull off. So I do like the skill a lot. I wish I could have kept him at a 4, but the new grade 2 is also solid and works better for my playstyle of not swinging with the rear guard first before my Vanguard, especially the Vanguard has drive checks. So solid 3 of a Schneizal. He's good. He has numbers to Vanguard. He had setup. Especially now with the new grade 2, I've been feeling more comfortable swinging with Schneizal first. So 3 of Schneizal. Speaking of that new grade 2, he's our last grade 2 in the main deck, but not the grade 2 in general, and that is Knight of Plowing Youthberk, also out of 3 of. Again, I see all of these extremely often. Grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto front rearguard circle. When your Vanguard is placed on Vanguard by riding from a RevolForm ability, choose one of your rear Vanguards and it gets plus 5k for the turn. So slightly different than Schneizal in the sense that for Schneizal, he is on attack and it can be just by riding from a grade 3 in general, not by any specific means. This one you have to specifically do it from Revolve Dress, but A, free 5k. And if you have 2 of them from her, that's plus 10. And then auto rear guard, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, by soul blasting a RevolForm, you can get plus 10 for the battle. So great, so 20k swing. If it was Tempest, probably 25 without triggers. And if you remember this boy, he is also the reason why I won the most latest game against Scofolgia, because I used him in combination with a draw trigger and a heal trigger and Tempest to hit a total of 35,000 power, which made me, or technically in the moment it was 45,000, but in reality it would have been, oh no, it was 35. No, it was 45. It was 45. But without it, I wouldn't have been able to win. So, all-around Youthberk is really nice. Adds numbers, has the Garmore theme to it, and he has the moon in the background. We all know I'm 100% biased towards moon cards. And, you know, he has the ability to give 5k for free, and that means I can feel free to, or like, I have safety nets, and if I don't want to swing with the rear guards first, unlike with Schneizal. So, solid 3 of Youthberk. I like him a lot. He's a solid grade 2, and he works perfectly for my playstyle. Then move on to the last grade 2 of the deck, and that is the grade 2 of the ride deck. 1 copy of Knight of Ardent Light Youth, none in the main deck, of course. Grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto was brought upon by a unit with RevolForm ability. By counterblasting 1, choose a grade 2 or greater card from your drop zone and put it to your hand. Now here's the interesting part. It said RevolForm ability. Never said the unit had youth in its card name. Just saying. Not saying that we are guaranteed to get a RevolForm card that doesn't, or RevolForm ability that doesn't have Youthberk, but it's a possibility. Anyways, free grade 2 or greater hand, so you know you can discard Revolve Dress and just bounce it right back. And then auto Vanguard or rear guard when this unit boosted. Soul Blast 1, this unit gets plus 5k for the battle. I have used that ability once in my entire time of playing this deck. Like, it just in general, like not just set 9, just in general of Youthberk. And that's because that ability never comes in handy except for that one time where my opponent saw a trigger and I boosted with him and I soul blasted and they just took it anyways. So, fair enough. One of ride deck of youth just because, you know, possible 23k swinger and also free more or less ride deck for the turn. So, solid grade 1. I like it a lot. One of in the ride deck. Then move on to our grade 3s. First up, we have 2 copies of my, by far, least favorite Revolve Dress, not because of his art, but because of his skill, and yet somehow he's the most used Revolve Dress in all of Youthberk, and that is Youthberk RevolForm Gust. Grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base, auto when he's placed on Vanguard by your Revolve Dress ability. If your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, so you cannot go into him if you went first, discard a card from your hand, and he gets plus 10k in a drive for the turn. So for the record, you can combo this with Sequenna. If you use Sequenna first, you can increase your drive to 1, and then you can use Gust to increase your drive plus 1. The difference is because Sequenna would shift it down to 1 because it says increase or decrease. That means your drive, if you use Gust first, will stay at 1 if you use Sequenna afterwards. So you always want to use Sequenna first, then use Gust to get Twin Drive. Anyways, cool. So 23k, possible Persona Ride, 33k with Twin Drive is all around a nice plus. And then the ability shares with its other Revolve forms. Auto Vanguard at the end of your turn, choose a card with Revolve Just ability from your Soul Rotted as Rest. So get you access back to your Persona Ride, which is great. If they ever make a unit that has Revolve Dress that has an on-place ability, it's going to be pretty interesting too. So I'd like to see where this goes with it, but also Gust, in my opinion, least favorite in terms of skills. In my opinion, it's the worst because it had like, how do I put this? It just copied Leonorm with the extra drive skill, but hey, it's not bad, I will admit to that, and it's the most used Youthberk, so fair enough. 2 of Gust. I like his art, hate his skill. But somehow I see more than, again, I see him more than I should. I run him at 2, and the amount of times he will be in my hand by the end of the game is insane. Then we have 2 copies of Youthberk RevolForm Zest. I feel bad having to take him down, but when I added Youthberk in 3, I had to take down someone, and I was like, it's between this and Tempest, and I'm gonna fucking take Tempest, because Tempest is my favorite. So, 2 copies of Zest, grade 2 intercept 5k, sorry, grade 3, 200%, 13k base. I have no idea where the fuck I got grade 2 intercept from. Auto is placed on Vanguard by Revolve ability until end of turn, he gets plus 15, and then Persona Road, he gets an extra crit, and then the standard go to Soul, or like Ride as Rest thing from the other ones. So, great 28k swing guaranteed, and then the extra crit. Now, I know why a lot of people said they didn't like him, because outside of Persona Ride, he didn't really have any real pressure, unless your opponent was at 5. But combine this with Sequenna on a Persona Ride turn. You have on its own a 38k Vanguard with double critical and a single drive. that's at least 2 cards to guard, unless your opponent drops a PG and they're at 1 hand card. But at that point, they're probably already dead. So 2 of Zest, he's nice. He has pressure, just you have to wait for the right moment to use it. And if you're me, you know when the right moment is. And by me, I mean, by know the right moment, I mean you just randomly pick the moment it happens to work out because you're really good at that. So 2 of Zest. It's a solid card, being at least a 28k swing, and then, you know, the extra crit and possible 38k and other bullshit you can add on to it is nice. So 2 of Zest. He's my, not my favorite, but my second favorite. And then we have the last RevolForm in the deck, and that is Youthberk. RevolForm, Tempest. My favorite in terms of art and in terms of flavor text, the only time I'll ever read this. The overflowing rain of sorrow, the emerald tempest shall blow it all away. Grade 3 200 persona right, 13k base. Auto is placed on Vanguard by Revolve just ability. All your farm units get plus 5k for the turn. Then you can counterblast one reveal top 2. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards with the same grade as any of the reveal cards and put it to bottom. And then put all the reveal cards to your hand. So it's not send all rear guards or like 1 per. It is send a single rear guard. So even if like your hand card, or like even if the cards revealed were a grade 0 and a grade 1, and your opponent's rear guards all were either grade 1s or grade 0s, you don't pick one of each, or you don't pick all of them. You only pick one of all those rear guards, and it goes to bottom, which sucks, but hey, fair enough, get rid of a rear guard. And then, you know, the standard share ability. But also the thing I love about him, the fact is he gets you hand cards, and granted that costs a counterblast, but if you just wanted to place him down for the sake of placing him down, the 5k is guaranteed. And I remember there was a game where I had no counterblast because I was pushed to the very edge and I tried to kill him last turn with Tempest and I failed miserably. So I went into it and I used Tempest, and the 5k ended up being the reason I win because I had Schneizal, and this was back in set 7, by the way. So I had Schneizal and I had Friday, and the 5k ended up winning me just by a hair. And thankfully I couldn't even use counterblast anyways because I used Sequena, and thankfully I didn't because the drive check revealed a trigger. So I think it was a, what was it? I don't remember. I think it was a heal maybe, but I honestly don't remember. Either way, it's an amazing skill, being able to add stuff to your hand for defensive abilities, get rid of a possible rear guard, though for me that never really happens, and being able to plus your entire front row plus 5k for the turn is an amazing skill, and I like it a lot. That's why he's my favorite, and in terms of arts too, so 3 of Tempest. Then we have our last card in the deck, and that is 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy in the red deck of our main grade 3 Youthberk Skyfall Arms. Grade 3 200 persona, 13k base, revolve dress, auto Vanguard. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. Choose to 1 RevolForm and its card name from your hand and write it as stand, and if you do, it'll lose 2 drives for the turn. So, you know, sucks for Tempest and Zest because that means they have 0 drives unless, you know, you use Sequena to boost them up to 1. And then for Gust, you know, it just brings them down to 1 if you use Gust skill, or possibly 2 if you use Sequena skill. So, fair enough. It's a good skill though because, you know, you do it for free, which I love the fact that it's like so just cost lenient on that. And then active Vanguard just once per turn by discarding a card from your hand. Look at top 3, choose up to 1 RevolForm from one of them, reveal it, put it to your hand, or choose up to 1 grade 2 list card from one of them, call it to rear guard, and put the rest to bottom. Okay, I do like the fact they can add a RevolForm to hand or call a rear guard. My issue is, did they have to copy and paste nearly the exact same skill from the grade 1? The only differences are A, not on ride or on road upon, B, is not a soul blast, it's a discard, and C, it is not any Youthberk, which arguably makes it worse, because if you see a persona ride, well, fuck you, because the persona rides don't have RevolForm in their card names. So, like, it's not a bad skill, it's just, they really had to do that to you, huh? Like, I don't know. That's why I always hated his skill. Like, it was just a disappointment because they just chose to copy and paste the exact same skill from the grade 1 onto him and just change it ever so slightly and make it arguably worse. Either way, it's not a bad card though. Again, get you the extra multi-attack on your Vanguard turn, does it for free, and can either get you a rear guard or get you a RevolForm from the hand, which has saved me in a few games, and I like him a lot. So, you know, so 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the red deck. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, it is very nice to have. You know, first grade 3 turn going into it isn't all that bad. Second grade 3 turn is where my hand gets convoluted with a bunch of grade 3s, and I probably either use up my PGs already or I'm going to make it to my next turn because I have a bunch of my PGs left over. And then third grade 3 turn, if we get that far because my opponent somehow survived my bullshit, is I am now squandering for every last bit of hope and pulling out every anime move I have in my book. And somehow it fucking works because the amount of times I have top decked with this deck because of my revolve dresses, I have no idea how it happens. And Schneizal. That's why I refuse to cut Schneizal because he actually has been the reason I've won a lot of games too. So, actually, in hindsight, a lot of these cards have been a lot of reasons I won games. But either way, that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's a fun deck to play. Get you rear guards. It has like that nice gold paladin feel, but it also has like that unique royal shadow feel without actually doing those dex gimmicks. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.